Halo Combat Evolved, a game I dare say is near perfection. So, how do you improve upon perfection? Can you even do it? Well, Halo Studios is trying. So, let's just get this out of the way. Is this remake even really for me? Am I the target demographic? Or is it a PlayStation user that has never had the chance to play the series before? Well, to be honest, even after playing, I don't know the answer exactly. I know I will probably just stick to booting up MCC and playing Halo Combat Evolved if I want to play Combat Evolved. Now that doesn't mean this remake isn't quality. I like it. There are some small weird things, especially in some of the cinematics, that I really don't like. Especially that they're just movies and not in-engine cutscenes like the original. There are some funny things that were possible that are no longer possible because it's not in-engine. Some of the Forerunner structures don't feel the way they did in the past. They're a little sterile, a little too clean for my liking. The sprint, while I'm not going to say it's completely useless, you could have just achieved the same effect by boosting base movement speed. It's also a shame that they didn't take the opportunity to reintroduce the wildlife that was cut from the original. Overall, for what it is, it's a 7/8 out of 10 for me, while Combat Evolved is still honestly at a 10 out of 10, especially given for the time it was made and how revolutionary it was. Not to knock Campaign Evolved, but honestly, you could take someone and have them go play the original Xbox Combat Evolved version, and it would still hold up to this day, especially if you had them on a nice CRT setup. Halo Combat Evolved is a game that has stood the test of time. Unfortunately, one of the biggest sticking points against Campaign Evolved for me is that there is no multiplayer. The rest of my complaints are relative nitpicks that most people outside of enthusiasts would not notice. I was excited, maybe a little apprehensive, but excited. I wasn't going to ignore the fact that this is 343/Halo Studios' second attempt at remaking the first game. For the uninitiated, when 343 first took over the Halo franchise after Reach was finished, they were tasked by Microsoft to remake the first Halo as a way to get their feet wet and get an understanding of the series. Well, that first attempt went very stellar, and with every Halo release since, there have been some aspects that fans have taken great issue with. And that's not to say that they haven't had successful attempts at things. I enjoyed Halo 4's story, 5 had great gameplay, and Infinite managed to find a somewhat middle ground between the two. Infinite's problem was that it was a live service and had no content at launch, and personally, the full focus on microtransactions didn't help either. Campaign Evolved's pre-launch gave me some worries, like them adding Sprint, adding the new content that we had no idea what was going to be besides some prequel stuff with Johnson. The cosmetics had me worried because you didn't know if they were going to affect cutscenes or be more invasive or planning on adding more later on. Now knowing that they were just not in cutscenes at all and it's purely a gameplay thing, I don't think it's that bad. And after having played through the game on Legendary and it taking about 10.5 hours, I can say that this remake is actually not too bad. It's definitely a good remake. It could have used a little more time in the oven to cook, some things could have gotten smoothed out, but I think we could have just done a little bit better in 2026. Real quick, because when reviewing the script, I hadn't gotten this in, but I really wanted to talk about it, and that's the terminals, more so just 3 in particular. The skulls are cool, I'll mention those now. They're mostly found in different spots, and I'm oblivious and missed multiple that I was right in front of. The 3 I found particularly interesting were Penitent 1 through 3. Spoilers for the terminals. It follows multiple conversations between 343 Guilty Spark and Penitent Tangent, the monitor of Delta Halo or the Halo from Halo 2. You can watch the Logic Plague take over in real time. It also seems to imply that the Grave Mine forming on Delta Halo was entirely separate from the outbreak in Combat Evolved. It would also appear that it was far more along in its evolutionary process than Combat Evolved, especially since the Logic Plague was appearing, and it takes a Grave Mine for a Logic Plague to appear. It seems like that even before the Logic Plague reared its head, Penitent Tangent was already questioning his creators. It felt like he was in a prison, damned to become mad over time and isolated. 343 Guilty Spark denied him the answers he was looking for, but the Grave Mine provided. The Grave Mine talked, Penitent listened. Before I get to the changes to the main game and the main game experience, I want to get the 3 new bonus levels out of the way, as it's Halo's version of Rogue One. The title crawl gives us the exposition. The short of it is that it takes place a year before Halo 1 and they're looking for High Charity. There's this research ship above a glass planet and they believe it could hold its location. Now this intro cutscene, I love it, and I love the grunts doing a bit, getting upset about the lack of people in the dropship and getting impatient just for Chief to be in the last door. The boot joke felt a little forced, and the animation on the grunt running looked a little sluggish. I mean, just compare it to the cutscene from Halo 2, and it looks a lot more fluid there.
Not even the flood can stop it. Boo. Kill the demon.
This feels a lot more drawn out, and I don't really care for it. What I did like, though, is that you start with the battle rifle, and I'm fairly forgiving of this because it only appears in the bonus missions. You won't randomly find a BR in the main campaign, and I kind of appreciate that. It would break the balance of the weapons sandbox in the original game. The BR does feel a little stiff and unfinished though, and I don't know why that is considering in Halo Infinite it feels way better. But while talking about the weapons sandbox, I do think that Magnum, while nerfed, is still one of the strongest weapons in the game. It's not underpowered, it's still definitely toned down though, taking about a full mag to take out most elites on Legendary. Johnson joins us after we clear out the first area, joining us with this beautiful sniper. It really sucks we can't pick it up or use it, but it's still cool it's in game I guess. The needle rifle appears plenty throughout the game, and it is incredibly strong against elites. The super combine really was helpful. The shotgun you get fairly early on playing the bonus missions compared to when you get it in 343 Guilty Spark in the original. It is using a model that looks closer to the Halo 2 shotgun, which I don't mind, but I really wish they would have found a way to modernize the classic CE shotgun. It was a long boy, had that silver metallic look to it, plus the blue lights. I'm really a sucker for those blue lights. You fight through what looks to be more of a normal Covenant ship until you reach this section where it turns white and gold. And it's this really sudden, stark aesthetic shift that I really like. After fighting through opulence, we find our way to a really dark section of the Covenant ship where we find Coveys that look to be in a hyperbolic time chamber. Chief and Johnson discuss the pods and come to the conclusion that they are experiments. After another chamber, we find ourselves face to face with a prophet we have never met before, Harmony. Harmony decides to reveal himself in the most villainous way possible. I don't know shit about this guy, but what I do know is that he's a fucking weirdo. In a bit of a twist, Harmony seems to recognize that the Chief is similar to what he is doing with the Brutes, and Chief obviously gets offended by this. There's a cool part that, and I don't care if it's a spoiler, while Harmony is going over the positive traits of the species of the Covenant, they all each individually just react in a cute way. The reveal of the Brutes was also really interesting. They have this new little modification on their chest that seems to control their behavior, and then when you shoot it off it makes them go berserk. And also, it causes them to attack their own teammates, which was really interesting. Also really helpful on Legendary. The final set piece of the first level is Hell on Legendary. On other difficulties, I know it's not going to be bad. They give you plenty of supplies around the arena. But on Legendary, you really don't have the time to go because you're just going to get shot down before you can even make it. So your best bet is to literally just sit at the furthest point from them where they can't shoot at you and just kill them before they can get into range. That's your best bet. A detour of our main objective occurs in the ending cutscene for the mission. There seems to be some UNSC signal. Johnson thinks it's a trap. Chief may even think it's a trap. There's no explanation for it, but they need to investigate it for themselves to see if there are any stranded UNSC. If there aren't any, Chief would want to help them, and you also get a banger one-liner from Johnson too. Now, maybe I'm just dumb, but Mission 2 confused me a little bit on the start. We were on a Covenant cruiser, but then suddenly it's this open outdoor environment. I'm not gonna lie, I thought we had a bit of a time skip at first, but this will make a little bit more sense shortly if it doesn't now. The signal got stronger here, and there's a giant eye in the sky, and you can see the hexagons, meaning this is an artificial environment inside the ship. But what is its purpose? And how massive is this ship that they can just have this here? This scale is kind of insane. So when they told us Brutes were going to be in the game and they were going to be a new enemy, they didn't tell us they were only going to be in the bonus missions. I'm not complaining, just an interesting observation. We eventually run into a squad of Marines/ODSTs. If you aren't a knower, the ODSTs and Spartans don't get along. One of the most cited incidents is in the Fall of Reach novel. Chief is training and some ODSTs step up to him. He's kind of confused because he's not sure why they're doing this. They're allies, but they're threatening him and he's supposed to neutralize threats. Anyways, he ends up killing a couple of them and breaking bones of others, not even intending to. So, this incident caused ODSTs to have a massive distaste for Spartans. What's funny about that is later on as the ODSTs became candidates for the Spartan 4 program. Buck is an example of that. We meet what I believe is our first woman helldiver, Lieutenant Williams. She was delighted to see Johnson, but soured as soon as she saw Chief, while the Marines were in awe. She will constantly drone on about a PR campaign, and it's incredibly annoying. I kind of like this character, but this is one of the few aspects I dislike about her, despite being in line for how some ODSTs felt in the universe at the time. Williams goes on to reveal that this is a hunting ground. After clearing a forest section with a bunch of needler jackals and some other annoying enemies, you come up to this bridge with a pass on the left. On Legendary, you literally stand zero chance because there's just a wraith just raining down hellfire upon you. So you have to take the path on the left that has cover. But then there's a fuel rod grunt there, 2 elites, and a brute. Alright? This was terrible. It was just not fun to deal with. They also love to throw hunters at you, so after you deal with the wraith, a couple of drop ships of enemies, you get 2 hunters. You're constantly low on ammo during this whole, every bonus mission. You're just low on ammo and searching for the next weapon. Fun little fact about the hunters actually is they have an extra added weak spot to the back above the armor. Or above the part that's unshielded, there's a little bit of armor plate that can be destroyed and you can do damage there as well. I did not know this for basically my whole playthrough, and that is incredibly annoying. So if you're watching this and you haven't played through, or you have, or you just want to play through it in the future, remember, there's a spot there you can damage. After escaping the hunting reserve with the ODSTs, we get this fun little cutscene that leads into the final bonus mission, Heavy Burden.
We're about to head straight into the middle of the hive to get that honey we came for. The chief and I will handle that side of things.
We're combat ready. We're not about to sit this out.
Sit it out, my armor-plated ass. Lieutenant, I can assure you there will be no sitting. Chief and I will secure the bridge. We need your crew to head straight to the nearest hangar bay and secure our ride out of here.
Now that's more like it. Give him hell, Sergeant Major. We'll keep the engine running.
Chief and Johnson continue their mission to get the nav data. We fight through many of the different golden environments until we make our way to the bridge where the nav data is held. Once retrieved, we get a truth-like monologue from Harmony that like we got in Halo 3. We also check on Williams, and it sounds like they're having a hard-fought battle. At this point, I was wondering if they were even gonna make it out alive or have a period class stand, and we eventually make our way to a gondola, and it wasn't as awful as I thought it was going to be, but it still crushed my balls because this game loves to spawn way too many enemies to deal with at once. We still make it through it though, and the fact that this game has jackal snipers is a crime against humanity. This shouldn't exist. And also, the gondola gets the classic trope of about halfway through having to restart the gondola, and it's totally fun and not ball crushing at all. The midway cutscene though, that's kinda neat, so I'll just let it play.
Nice work.
Thanks. Spartans aren't the only badasses in the UNSC. So, did you take out the Prophet?
Negative.
Whatever the Covenant's working on here needs to be stopped before it can go any further. We need to destroy this ship.
Chief, DLT's right. We need to blow this entire ship to molecules. We can't let them finish cooking up what's in these labs. Libra Actual, this is Libra 2. I'm breaking radio silence to request immediate assistance. We are green for exfil. Requesting a fire mission against our current location.
Libra 2, this is Libra Actual. We are ready for rendezvous. Tactical indicates our ship doesn't have the firepower to penetrate the target's energy shields. If you can find a way to drop their shield strength, even for a few moments, we should be able to take the shot.
Copy that. Keep your weapons hot. We'll be in touch.
So, take out the generators.
Great idea, but it'll only drop the shields for a minute or two at most.
That's all the time they need to take the shot.
Yeah, but you can't be here when the fireworks start.
And he doesn't need to. You guys get off this ship, get the nav data to the UNSC. We'll drop the shields.
Negative, Lieutenant. That's a one-way trip.
It's been a one-way trip from the beginning for us, Chief. At least now we get to go out on our own terms.
That wasn't the mission.
Missions change, Chief. Always do. Now we're giving these Marines a chance to punch back.
Damn right. Chief, I gotta do this. It would haunt me every day to know we let this nightmare factory survive. And I'll be damned if I let a Spartan steal the glory on this one.
That's our cue, Chief. Time to go. Pleasure serving with you, Lieutenant.
Let's move out, Marines!
I really like this interaction between Williams and Chief. It gives some meaning to when Chief talks about missions changing in Halo Infinite, and you could call it jerking off their own writing. I appreciate the meaning it gives. We get our flying portion we were promised, and it's pretty cool to fly a Sarah for the first time in the series. I believe it's the first time, and if I'm wrong, I guess call me a fake fan or a poser or a LARPer down below. Feel free. I like how they have this Metal Gear Solid call screen though while flying. I think it's kind of a cool little thing. I've never really played the Metal Gear series, but I appreciate the reference. The flying is fairly tight, and it feels very similar to flying the longsword in Halo Reach. The flying mission is multi-sectioned. First part has you clearing out some turrets and some parts of the shield generator. Then we move on to protecting a Pelican, getting some injured soldiers out. And in the same section, we are then tasked with protecting the Burden of Proof, which, just a little side note, why do the UNSC ships have so much sauce? Once the mission is done, we destroy the Covey ship, but Harmony escapes before we can get him. Like I have for the other cutscenes, I'll let this final one play out for the bonus mission.
This is Libra 2. We're ready for pickup. We've also got a staff manifest to submit for posthumous commendations. Acknowledged. Welcome aboard.
Ma'am.
I'm glad that you made it back in one piece. And John,
Oh, 117? He's a good kid.
they are not children anymore, Sergeant Major.
Doc, when you're as old as I am, they're all still kids.
Do you think there might be other Covenant ships like this out there?
Hard to say. The Prophets seem to be working alone.
Genius often is. You should be pleased to know this little excursion was well worth the effort. It looks like you just might have found the heart of the Covenant after all.
The bonus missions on Legendary each took me about an hour and a half-ish, given some resets and deaths, so expect each run to take you about 45 minutes on a lower difficulty. And honestly, 2 hours of brand new content, I can't complain about it. I just wish there was more. What was there, I wish it was a little bit more fleshed out. Harmony, for example, we know he's a bad guy, we know he was doing experiments. Unfortunately, we don't really see or hear any of them through the original trilogy. But like, I would like to know more about this prophet. This guy seems a little devious, a little villainous. He seems interesting. I will say that Microsoft and Halo Studios have hinted that this may not be the last of the remakes, and that they intend to do the rest of the series in a similar way, which honestly I'm not against after this. I would just like to see multiplayer included in the future remakes. I feel like it's such a missed opportunity, especially if they were trying to bring it to a new console. Hell, Gears Reloaded, which was supposed to be PlayStation's introduction to Gears, got multiplayer, but Halo couldn't? It's insanity. Getting back to where this was going originally, I think it's cool setting up High Charity in the ending cutscene of the bonus missions, showing that future sequels are planned on getting remade at the end of this. But let's get back to the main game and what they've done, since there are plenty of changes to get into. There have been some changes to every level's layout, and I'm not a complete purist that says Bungie's level design from 2001 is peak and shouldn't be improved upon. The library feels a little more engaging and less monotonous. 343 Guilty Spark is a little less confusing and gives you arrows on the floor as to where to go. I'm just going to bring this up now since I'm speaking of like where to go. The constant markers telling you where to go are completely unnecessary. It's something that didn't ruin or hurt my enjoyment, and I just know there are going to be subsections of players that won't explore as much because they just have that arrow telling them where to go. But when the visual language on how to navigate the level is so clear, it just feels entirely unneeded. Especially if you're already familiar with the game, every mission's beats happen in about the same order. Honestly, it's going to be kind of hard to go over the changes without just going through every mission in order and just covering them. So let's just start with Pillar Bottom. Starting with the opening cinematic, I like it. It's a bit longer and they changed Johnson's speech, but I think it sets up how dire the situation is for the Pillar Bottom at the moment. It's also cool to see the boys in green. Also neat, they use the fog to hide the elites in the opening cinematic. Maybe this is why they make one of the changes we'll see shortly. I can't be the only one that thinks this though. Does Johnson look like Steve Harvey? And I can't be the only one that thinks it's the mustache carrying this comparison. The beginning plays out exactly the same as it did in the original, but very quickly they do a little change that I didn't really understand until thinking back to the opening cinematic. It's when you see your first elite and it stops you in your tracks, you can't move, and it's almost like an old vignette, but it's even more forced. And you just stare at this elite until a marine almost goes to assassinate it, but then it just doesn't. You can just move past. Not gonna lie, not really a big fan of the new keys design. I don't mind the new Cortana design actually. I actually kind of like it. It's reminiscent of the weapon, maybe a little more so than I'd prefer, but I don't mind the design overall. Past keys, going into the cafeteria, they changed the layout and gave the Covenant some high ground. I think this is a nice dynamic shift from the original fight and changes up the pacing a good bit. But past this, it's all pretty much the same up until when you get to the Marines and the lifeboat.
One more thing I'd like to note is that for every cutscene in this game, there's just this hard cut. In Combat Evolved, the original, you would put your gun down, it would fade into the cutscene. Here it's just a hard cut to the movie, and it's a little jarring.
The game. Halo, one of the most iconic missions of the series. This mission introduces the whole of Halo's gameplay loop: exploration, vehicles, guns, with a bit of mystery. This first section up to getting to the Warhog from Foehammer is the same. They did keep one of my favorite Johnson lines, and my favorite of this level. Once you get through you'll notice they shortened it quite a bit. It really is pretty though, especially in the area between the two canyons. They did remove the bridge scene though, which was a nice atmosphere builder. Even if it was small, it's the totality of those small things that add up. The rest plays out the exact same as the OG mission. The only difference is that there are way more enemies in the encounters. This seems like this was their way of making things more difficult. Yes, they have more help, but there are also just way more enemies coming at you. Like the Hangar Bay in Truth and Wreck, the Flood on any mission, they are present in. It's just kind of absurd. And if you don't keep your Marines alive, which are way more useful in this version, you kind of just can soft lock yourself sometimes, unless you're willing to bang your head against the wall for a bit. Johnson being invincible is incredibly useful though, especially on Legendary. After saving all the Marines, we are brought to the third mission, Truth and Reconciliation. Just have to mention the sauce of the ship name, Truth and Reconciliation. It's great. We get Chief posted up with the sniper in the back of a Pelican. That visual always went hard. And I will say at this point, I will notice they've kept pretty much most of the dialogue the exact same. Sometimes there are some subtle differences. That didn't happen in, I want to say it's Assault and Control Room, where 343 Guilty Spark is talking about humans being Forerunner, essentially. That didn't get changed at all. That's still all the exact same. In the first mission, they say, let's give our old friends a welcome, when it was just old friend in the original. So there's just some subtle changes like that throughout the game. I will continue to point out how pretty some of these sections in the environment are, but the canyon in the night on the first section is really pretty, and the grav lift area, despite being incredibly frustrating and hard for me on Legendary, was really cool. I will also say the fact they don't use a cutscene to load in the interior of the Covenant ship, but just allow you to shoot right up in there, was really neat, and it actually caught me off guard. By the way, fuck the grav lift area when the dropship comes in. It plays out the same in the first interior area, but the hunters at the end, these guys were annoying. But the energy sword one-shots them in the back even on Legendary. Ignore the fact that I never use this again though. Some of these sections are actually really hard and near impossible without Johnson's help. I would know because there was a section I was stuck on and Johnson wouldn't respawn, and I just had to keep respawning over and over again. So Johnson will actually carry you through parts of the legendary campaign when he shows up. And I don't know how I haven't managed to mention this part, but the SMG was included in this game. It does fulfill a similar role to the assault rifle, but I think that's why they brought the assault rifle's ammo count down, because then the SMG would be redundant. But we keep the 60 round assault rifle skull on. I finally make my way to the keys holding cell, and this is probably one of the biggest quality of life changes this mission has ever seen. You no longer have to escort keys. He kind of just goes off on his own, and you just have to secure a way to the ship for everyone to get off. They also made the ending cutscene way cooler, but I have one problem. Why do the hunters murk me in 2 seconds? But when Chief is in a cutscene, they're just mouth drawers they're charging up their cannon. They never fire. They just never fire. My immersion is ruined.
Now I know I said Halo was the most iconic mission, but I lied, and that's because we hadn't made it to the silent cartographer yet. This is Halo distilled into one mission, and to Halo Studios' credit, they knocked it out of the park. One grievance is the fact that you can't completely submerge the Warhog and go out super far into the water, but outside of that, it's silent cartographer. You can't really fuck it up, and yes, you still kick the rock and have that little cutscene, and forcing your Warhog where it doesn't belong is still fun. Now I'm coming back after recording most of the script because a tweet inspired me. Jared Leto, the guy who made Master Chief and was high up on the Bungie team during that time of Halo being developed, and he had an idea for what the Forerunners aesthetic was supposed to be, how they envisioned them, what they wanted them to be. And Halo Studios has always struggled getting the aesthetics right for the Forerunners. During the reveal, many people, such as myself, noted the Forerunner structures don't feel quite right, they look a little too pristine, too sterile, and like it was made fairly recently with some super advanced technology. Now the last part is still true, but something Jared Leto notes, while it was made of metal, not stone, it is super ancient, vast, alive, and a tomb of horrors that lurk within. It had seen hundreds of millennia of conflict, yet the game shows it as a shiny metal that looks like it was built a few years ago. Someone gave the usual apology of, it's in space, there's no dust, wind, or water to damage it, but there's still giant rock collisions in space all the time. Jared gives a little rebuttal to that. My point in showing this is to say that the original creators had a vision for what the Halo rings should look like, and this isn't it, unfortunately. Now this isn't me saying the Forerunner structures we see aren't pretty, they very much are, it's just that it's lost some of the feel of the original. The original had a slight liminal feel to some of the spaces, and that wasn't on accident. They wanted to make it feel like no one's been there in a long time, and that it's been abandoned, and that things have happened that no one knows about, that no one's recorded down in history, and that this has been around longer than we can even begin to conceptualize. Yet in the remake, it looks as clean and new as the day they probably built it.
Getting to Assault on Control Room, this could be a little bit of a nitpick with the opening cutscene, but it feels like a cheap imitation. It plays out the same as the original, essentially, but the grunt running away feels more forced than out of fear like the original. It's such a minor complaint. Immediately, I'm a big fan of the original CE doors for this mission, and I'm happy to report that whilst not the same, they're acceptable, and I don't hate them. I'm also happy to report that they've changed the layout of the infamous copy and paste rooms that plagued the original. Some have some higher and lower ground that lead into the middle. There's a little more variance on these rooms. There may be just 2 layouts, but it's still some variance that allows for some different approaches to the areas. And I'm happy about the improvement, and another quality of life thing is the arrows glowing in the direction you need to go. But also, if you're dumb or not quite as observant, Cortana will even give you a voice line acknowledging it. I don't think that it's necessary since how visually clear it's guiding you, but I guess some people need the second reminder. Also, real quick, just fuck the bridge sections. They're really incredible visually, but equally annoying to cross on Legendary. Maybe it's a skill issue. I just had a lot of issues with many parts of the campaign. Could have just been a lack of preparation. You make your way to the elevators, and you make your way down, and everything's the same. You meet the Marines, and on Legendary, they all just die before you can even save them. So your best bet is to use the boarding mechanics they added to CE, get a ghost, and just truck it to the Scorpion. And once you use the Scorpion and you make your way to that bridge section, again, really pretty area, but I also ran past the skull right through here, and it isn't the first time while I was actively looking through him this whole time, but the rest of the mission plays out the exact same, and I'll let the cutscene leading to 343 Guilty Spark play because it's just really cool.
This is it. Halo's control center. No. That terminal. Try there.
Cortana? You all right?
Never been better. You can't imagine the wealth of information, the knowledge. So much, so fast. It's glorious.
So what sort of weapon is it?
What are you talking about?
Let's stay focused. Halo, how do we use it against the Covenant?
This ring isn't a cudgel, you barbarian. It's something else. Something much more important. The Covenant were right. This ring, it's Forerunner. Give me a second to access. Yes, the Forerunners built this place, what they called a fortress world, in order to... Wait. No, that can't be. Oh, those Covenant fools. They must have known that there must have been signs.
Slow down. You're losing me.
The Covenant found something buried in this ring. Something horrible. And now they're afraid.
Something buried? Where?
The captain. We've got to stop the captain.
Keys? What are
The
we...
weapons cache he's looking for. It's not really... We can't let him get inside.
I don't understand.
There's no time. Get out of here. Find keys. Stop him. Before it's too late.
Last, we finally make it to the biggest disgrace the 2011 version brought to us. Will they have improved upon what they fucked up previously? Spoiler alert, they do. I am so happy to report that the atmosphere in 343 Guilty Spark is so back. I don't know about y'all, but I always stop at that Pelican and listen to the transmission. It is a bit of a spoiler, but if you want to know her, it will still surprise you. We make our way through the swamp fighting the Covenant, making our way to that interior structure. Like the original, the Jackals and the Grunts are running away from human fire, yet when we make it there, there's nothing there to meet us. Yes, you can still catch the Flood jumping around outside if you look for them. Once inside though, most things are the same except for the connecting hallways. They are no longer that square you go through and loop around, it's just a straightforward hallway, making it harder to get lost. The Crazy Marine is still here and his dialogue is the exact same as the original. People said that he can't hurt you, he absolutely did here. They did change the reveal though, and I kinda don't know how to feel about it. The jump scare was good and earned, but I don't like how they do the footage reveal. It's streamlined. They cut some cutscenes and throw in parts into scenes that didn't have them previously, especially the stuff with the Dead Elite. It all feels a bit more rushed, which this should have just been a slow burn. They go from the entrance at which we came in to the door. That's a big skip. There was a whole middle section that they had I really don't like the elite being inside the room for this scene. It just feels like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Use the dialogue but shorten it significantly. The ending of the scene was better though. Also, it captured Chief's fear a little better than the original, which if you've read the novelization of CE, Chief was scared shitless during this, and how could you blame him? The only thing saving him was his Spartan training. There is a thick green fog filter over the area now, and suddenly there are tons of areas that are just infested with the flood biomass forming and signs of flood everywhere. This is all within like 20 minutes, which is kind of weird. I will admit, I barely fought the flood throughout any of this mission. Why? Because 1, you don't have to. 2, the flood is terrifying. The models are incredible though. They really cooked with them, and it makes me want the flood back in the new games for Halo that push the story forward. They were always an interesting foil to the dynamics of the two factions. The shotgun feels so good in this mission, and I always think it was a great idea to hold off on giving you a shotgun until this mission. You eventually make your way to the squad of Marines like you do in the original, and it plays out the same. You gotta do a holdout at the structure. This time though, instead of it feeling very random as to when the cutscene starts, it's very clear you have to kill everything around before it will end. 343 Guilty Stark abducts us and forces us to the worst mission in CE, the library. Did they manage to salvage this abysmal level into something playable? The library, like 343 Guilty Stark, has a predetermined image in the fanbase. It's the worst mission in all of CE and has the most monotonous, doing the same thing in the same area over and over again until the mission is done. I feel like they managed to keep the same structure and break it up into a little bit of a better pacing. Yeah, you do the same things through samey looking areas, but at least it's very pretty. 343 Guilty Spark looks great. The model they chose looks fantastic. It might be just the Infinite model, but it still looks great. Outside of that, it's still the library. It's much prettier though, so worth the playthrough one time to see the eye candy and not going back to the mission much like the original. They did knock it out of the park with the flood overgrowth though. Seeing the library actually show signs of a flood outbreak makes it much more immersive. Gameplay wise, it is holdout section after holdout section, but at least going through to each one isn't as bad, and the 3 levels you go through don't feel quite as samey as they did in the original. Overall, I think this is one of the areas that the remake does improve upon over the original. But let's backtrack to 2 betrayals.
Which means that any organism with sufficient mass and cognitive capability is a potential vector. On that point, all the tests were conclusive. Is something wrong?
No. Nothing.
Splendid. Shall we? Unfortunately, my usefulness to this particular endeavor has come to an end. Protocol does not allow units with my classification to perform a task as important as the reunification of the index with the core. That final step is reserved for you, Reclaimer. Odd. That wasn't supposed to happen.
Oh, really?
Cortana.
12 hours. 12 hours I've been stuck in here, watching you cozy up to that thing while it sharpens the knife to slit our throats.
Hold on. He's a friend.
Oh, I didn't realize. He's your pal, is he? Your chum? Do you have any idea what that bastard almost made you do?
Yes. Activate Halo's defenses and destroy the flood, which is why we brought the index to the control sector.
You mean this?
A construct in the core? That is absolutely unacceptable!
And yet...
What impertinence! I shall purge you at once!
You sure that's a good idea?
How dare you? I'll...
Do what? I have the index. You can just float and sputter.
Enough. The flood is spreading. If we activate Halo's defenses, we can wipe them out.
You have no idea how this ring works, do you? Why the Forerunners built it? Halo doesn't kill Flood, it kills their food. Humans, Covenant, whatever. You're all equally edible. The only way to stop the Flood is to starve them to death. And that's exactly what Halo is designed to do. Wipe the galaxy clean of all sentient life. You don't believe me? Ask him.
Is it true?
More or less. Technically, this installation's pulse has a maximum effective radius of 25,000 light years. But once the others follow suit, this galaxy will be quite devoid of life. Or at least any life with sufficient biomass to sustain the flood. But you already knew that. I mean, how couldn't you?
Left out that little detail, did he?
We have followed outbreak containment procedure to the letter. You were with me each step of the way as we managed this crisis.
Chief, I'm picking up movement.
Why would you hesitate to do what you've already done?
We need to go, right now.
Last time you asked me if it were my choice, would I do it? Having had considerable time to ponder your query, my answer has not changed. There is no choice. We must activate the ring.
Get us out of here!
If you are unwilling to help, I will simply find another. Still, I must have the index. Give your construct to me, or I will be forced to take her from you.
That's not going to happen.
So be it. Save his head. Dispose of the rest.
Now that I've let the cutscene play, I want to iterate this again. I like that they keep the dialogue the same, and it still points at humans being forerunners. Even though we've moved on, I appreciate the dedication to keeping it as close to the original as possible to preserve that, at least in this instance, that humans were forerunners. I don't know, the lore has changed over time, but they're at least dedicated to it. I haven't been commenting on Cortana because it's the Cortana that we get and it's what we were expecting of her. I have to say I really like how well they animate her facial expressions and how the voice acting goes towards expressing her emotions is great, and the Two Betrayals opening cutscene is a really good example of this. Though they didn't keep it in line, I wanted them to keep the Chum and Toady and Sod, but I guess it was too much of a British influence despite Cortana originally going to be British. We've already done this before in Assault on Control Room, and we're just doing it backwards in Two Betrayals. But I will say the snowy skin with the flood biogrowth does manage to look very pretty at times. I did get stuck in one area in particular and I hated it. It sucked. It blew so hard. The tunnel below was blocked by flood biomass, where in the original I think you could just go that way. But the mission plays out the same. You're just going back through, disabling the generators, and they keep the infamous rocket flood in the rocket flood hallway. It is hell. Keys, the second to last mission. The opening keeps the same gags like they have with the rest of the bits from the original, besides Sawed Off. But besides the point, I'm not going to continue with that bit. They again streamlined the opening, making it like two hallways and giving you no visibility on the state of Keys like you could see in the original. It is hell fighting the Covenant with Flood, especially any rocket flood. Yes, the best strategy like it was in the past is to just run past everything, which you can't do at the end because you have to kill everything. But up until that last section, it's the same. You will just run past. The blue liquid, by the way, that you jump into, I didn't know that was supposed to be like fuel. The only thing telling me this is the new Cortana voice line before you jump in. I don't think that was there in the past. You fight through the canyon like you did in the original, but it feels like there's twice as many enemies on screen. And it feels like it's way more packed and lively. Now this means it's even more hellish on Legendary, but they did do a good job.
Also, one of the few times I'll appreciate having the markers over the enemy's head at the end before you go up into the ship, because it just makes it easy to know this is the last couple I need to kill before advancing. You get sent up into the same section as Truth and Wreck, except that it's been floodified. It's really impressive how viral the flood is, in that being within an area within even a few hours to a couple days, it's already growing biomass on the walls. Also, Halo Studios did a good job showing the infection. You fight through the Truth and Reconciliation until you get to Keys' room, and in this cutscene it feels like there's a lot more emotion. My footage corrupted though, and it's diabolical that you have to melee him right in the head to get a skull to appear. That's crazy work. Getting out is still pretty easy, and this is definitely the easiest section on Legendary. Well, getting out is easy, but the first section after the cutscene is awful. Flood just spawn and flood the room. Once you kill a few of those, you have to deal with 4 elites, 4 fuel rod grunts, plus the flood. Whoever thought this was a good idea is a terrible person. And was this even play tested? Am I pulling a DSP and I'm just terrible? Let me know. The cutscene is pretty neat though at the end. Last but not least, and definitely a strong ending, the Maw. The final mission of Halo. It ends where it all started. It is still super claustrophobic, especially with how aggressive the flood can be. They also made it much more forgiving to blast the engine cores towards the end of the mission. I highly appreciate that quality of life improvement. The Warhog run is iconic, but I know I could do it much better than you're seeing in some of this footage, and honestly all of my previous driving looks pretty bad as well. I knew the driving was different. What I didn't know is that there was a setting to change it to make it more like the original driving. After changing it, I fucking crushed the hog run. I knew my driving was just absolute shit because I thought I had just gotten worse. I just wasn't used to how I was wanting to control. But now I know it was just a setting and I could just control it how I was used to, and how they're still using the physics engine blam. I don't like what they did to the whole longsword, making it just a cockpit instead of having a whole interior section. The whole flood brute thing, while scary and holy shit it was cool to see them in a cinematic like that, it felt kinda dumb. Why aren't the other combat forms just swarming them? This is the Hunters Not Blasting Chief all over again. It still visually looks incredible though, especially the lighting and the longsword at the very end. Also the Johnson bonus ending for Legendary telling us that there will be a sequel and more of these. I just hope that they do Halo 2 justice like they did in Master Chief Collection, and maybe we finally get a Halo 3 remastered. And hopefully both of them get multiplayer. It felt like there's been a long wait for this since its reveal. Overall, I would say it's worth playing through even as an old time fan. I wouldn't recommend playing through on Legendary unless you're a masochist, but if you just really want to save time and see the changes, just play the game on Heroic. The game happens beat for beat. They're using the Blam engine for physics, so you get the same old wild shit that would happen in the past, and it feels and looks way better than the 2011 remake. They did cut some things, didn't add more cut features given the time that they had to make this, but overall, if you're showing people this franchise for the first time, I would be hard pressed to tell you not to show them this. Especially when I got at least 10 hours of content out of Legendary. And if you have some friends that want to fuck about and co-op, it could be a great time, especially now that you can play with 4 friends. But for those who are CE veterans, is it good enough for them to give it a one-time try? I think it is. But honestly, I'm just going to go back and play Combat Evolved if I ever want to replay the campaign again. What did you guys think if you guys have played it? Or if you haven't played it, do you still want to give it a try? Let me know in the comments below. Leave a sub if you want to see more content like this. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.